Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we are talking about chapter 27 of the Tao Te Ching, Deftness and Enlightenment. Here's the lovely picture of some Taoist deities, and today we are going to get into it. So, if you don't know, and I'm not judging you, I didn't know, deftness is sort of the quick, seemingly easy way that some people act or react to things. You can talk about, his deftness for playing piano was immense or something like that. So it's basically like your quick ability to produce or do something seamlessly. And it seems like, oh my gosh, they do it so easy. They make it look so easy. That's deftness. So I'm going to read it and then we're going to talk about it. So deftness and enlightenment. Skilled carriage drivers leave no wheel tracks. Skilled orators leave no opening for opponents. Skilled reckoning does not need tallies. A skillfully made door needs no bolts to stop its swinging open. Skilled binding needs no knots but cannot be loosened. Thus the wise man excels in the care of his people, and no one is ever lost to him. He excels in the care of his possessions, and nothing is ever lost to him. In this way, we may call him enlightened. So the wise man is tutor to lesser men, and lesser men are his pupils. For the pupils not to respect his master, and the master to not cherish his pupils, overrides intelligence and leads only to confusion. This is an essential mystery of the Tao. So basically what we're talking about is learning, is teaching, learning, and the ability to gain knowledge or insight about life, about a skill, about a particular craft. Back in the day, it was really common to learn under a master, to have an apprenticeship, whether you were a young boy learning to be blacksmith by your father or your grandfather, or just the local blacksmith in the village. And this was really common. I think today, unfortunately, we have lost that true connection between apprentice and master. Lots of people work online and they learn online, and the idea of a master sort of teaching you the ins and outs of a specific thing, depending on your profession, isn't really the case anymore. Even in school, we are asked to rely on our textbooks, on other students for guidance and studying, other resources, and we seldom end up learning from the teacher, learning from the master themselves. And it's a product of our population explosion, the way efficiency works, our society. We're busy using the master to produce the product, and thus the students end up learning from teachers instead of people who are actually in the trade themselves. My English teacher taught me how to write, but an author or a best-selling author certainly doesn't have time to teach me how to do it. So that's kind of what we're talking about. The first few passages, like the skilled carriage driver leaves no wheel tracks, that's that deftness. They make it look so easy. Some of these people can make any task that you struggle with seem child's play. I remember I always watched the archery in the Olympics, and the way that these athletes can precisely hit their targets with these incredibly precise bows and the measurements that they have, and the distances that they can accurately shoot these targets is just incredible. And they make it look so easy and seamless. It's insane. So if you've ever watched someone who is really, really good at their skill, you'll just think, man, they make it look so easy. Like, how do I even get to that level? And that's kind of what they're talking about when it talks about like mastery of something, or the deftness when it comes to that. But it's also talking about enlightenment. And I think it's interesting to know that it doesn't necessarily say that only the master can have enlightenment. It sort of implies that even the pupils, even the students themselves, can reach this enlightenment through asking questions, being curious, focusing on the job at hand or the task that they have to do. And so that's quite an interesting idea. So when we talk about learning, I think it's really important to grab knowledge from multiple sources, and if you can find a master or a tutor to take you under their wing, that's amazing. That is so valuable, and you should really honor that and honor that relationship and respect that the knowledge that you are receiving is pretty special. We don't have access to this in our daily lives all the time. And so when a master comes along and sees promise in you, or you're able to come to some arrangement or agreement, you should absolutely seize on it, because that kind of curiosity and constantly learning makes us so much better as people. You can often tell within the first 20 minutes of meeting someone if they are innately curious, if they have the drive and an ambition to learn. I find that the people that I am most often drawn away from, that I try to avoid, are the people who imagine that they know everything and assume that they have a full world knowledge and that their cup is full. I don't need anything else. I'm sufficient, I'm good enough, I'm happy the way I am. I don't need any reflection, or I don't need any external sources of knowledge. I've got everything I need. And that is never the case. Even the master themselves can find wisdom and knowledge in the pupil. Several times in my life, I have witnessed where I've watched a master at work, and then, we're starting to do whatever we're doing, and someone else in the class will point out a really good point in philosophy, in rhetoric, in anthropology, in history, even in woodshop. And the master will seize upon that and go, man, that is a really ingenious way of doing that. Or I can't believe you built that thing using this. That's really creative. I would have never thought of that. And so the master is innately curious and able to fill his cup ever more. The idea is not to picture your cup as this finite thing that can be filled up and that's it. No, it's forever being filled, and you can always remove things from inside the cup and add other things. And so that's really important to this whole idea of like mastery and enlightenment, because true enlightenment leaves room for extra, for more, for an unthought of idea that actually brings a lot of joy or nuance to whatever you're doing. So I think that's very special. I haven't really, in the Taoist community, I haven't really heard of a lot of people talking about this chapter, which is kind of strange. And when I went back to read it to get ready for this episode, I was actually surprised at how profound it truly is. And this idea of, the master making everything look effortless. And that's Wu Wei, the idea of non-action. When you see someone who is so in the zone and focused on what they're doing, and it seems like they're not doing anything, but they're actually creating a masterpiece, or they're doing something so incredibly difficult and challenging and impressive, that is where the true mastery and the true element of this chapter comes into play. And you really see, like, man, this is really impressive. But I also like that it brings the pupil into the discussion as well. Because if we're really being honest, the pupil is the future. Whoever the student are, like if you are a student, you are the future of whatever you are going to do. If you're going to med school, if you're going to become a firefighter or a politician or whatever you might choose to do, you are the future of that trade, of that skill, of that profession. And I think we have seen many noble professions dragged down because the future is not being looked at. The pupil is not being the center of what is happening, and the learning is getting corrupted in some way, shape, or form. And that's a real problem, because the next generation after that is then going to degrade more. It's very unlikely that if the master is at 100 here and the pupil only gets to 75, it's very unlikely that the next pupil who will be working under this master will get to 100. It'll be very, very difficult. It'll take some special circumstance to allow that to happen. So it is very important to allow learning and to try and be a good student, to try and be a good learner, and to be open-minded about these things, and to understand that your cup is not full. It is never full. You will always have room for more understanding. There's that famous quote from Aristotle, maybe Plato. I apologize to my Greek scholars who, but they said, the more I know, the less I know. And that is a great idea within this, is the more that you understand about the universe or about whatever you're doing, you will generate more questions and more curiosity, and it will lead you to understand that, I know a lot about this thing, but that just shows me how much I don't know about everything. And nobody can master everything 100%. You can go through all the different philosophical schools, the Stoics, the Nihilists, the utilitarians. You can understand every single key figure in that philosophical school, but there is always going to be somebody that says, oh, well, have you read Solzhenitsyn? And then suddenly you're turned on your head because you had this huge hole in your knowledge and you realize, man, I really know nothing about this topic. I know nothing about classical literature, or there is always more to explore and to learn about. And as long as you're open to that and open to, being a bit humble and realizing like, oh, I don't know a lot about this, that is true wisdom. Wisdom is the sort of polite bow in the room when you are surrounded by, people who have different life experience. It's never about feeling like you're the smartest in the room, because a true wise person understands that they're not, that there is always something that a child could teach you, that a dog could teach you. You could watch a bird in the forest and it will do something that just changes the whole way you see nature and how it interacts. And I think that's truly such a joy in life, is to be curious and to realize the complexity of the world and the Tao that we exist in, because it is never ending. Like they say in many of these chapters, the Tao is endless. There is an endless amount of it, and the universe is infinite. There are an infinite number of universes, an infinite number of infinities, and our job is to go through life and try and find as many as we can. It's not to find all of them, because that's an impossible task, but it is to enjoy and explore as much as we are allowed to on our short time here. So I think that's really magical. It's a really beautiful feeling. I hope it doesn't fill you with existential dread, because I know some people who think about this stuff and then they start thinking about space and the infinite of galaxies and things, and that really freaks them out. But for me, it's very comforting to know that I am just one stream of consciousness existing in the ether and exploring to the best of my abilities. And so are you. So I hope you enjoyed Deftness and Enlightenment. Let me know what you think about this very wise chapter. And hopefully you learned something new. And hopefully you learn something new every single day. So thank you again. Dao De Ching, remember, beautiful. I hope you're having a beautiful day, month, year, week, millennium, century, whatever you're having. I hope it's amazing. And as always, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.